You're listening to Health Innovators, a podcast and video show about the leaders, influencers, and early adopters who are shaping the future of healthcare. I'm your host, Dr. Roxy Mooney. Welcome back, Health Innovators. On today's episode, I'm sitting with Derrick Miles, who's the founder and CEO for CourMed. Welcome to the show, Derrick.
Thank you so much for having me, Roxy. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So before we get started, please give our audience a little bit about your background and what you've been innovating these days.
Yes, so I'm a former healthcare executive, spent about 15 years in some of the nation's largest academic medical centers, leading operations, became CEO at the age of 31. For the people who are watching in the state of Florida, I actually got my start at Shands at the University of Florida once I finished graduate school. After about those 15 years, I realized though that, I felt like I was a caged bird because I had all these innovative ideas, and in healthcare, they're not the most innovative. It's more of a Me Too strategy instead of being on the cutting edge. So I'll make all these recommendations about how we can improve with technology and different innovative ideas, and they would shoot it down.
Right.
So, in the downturn of the economy, I just raised my hand. They were letting people go because the economy got so bad. We let, I think, 9 VPs go. I was VP number 9. And I just realized it was time for me to go out and become an entrepreneur. I had some failed ventures at first because what I understood is that I was trying to innovate in areas that I didn't have a lot of insight. But I had a mentor, a guy by the name of Fred Fisher. Anyone who goes to the University of Florida may recognize that name because the School of Accounting is named after him. He's been a mentor of mine since I've been 18. So Fred and I had a conversation. He says, Derrick, if you're going to innovate or do anything, do it in the area that you have expertise. People can pull the wool over your eyes if you're in the area that you don't know anything about. So go back into healthcare and innovate, buddy.
Yeah.
So what we saw was an opportunity in the general marketplace that was very, I would say, innovative, in vogue, and sexy. Crowdsourced delivery, Uber, Lyft, Grubhub, Postmates here in the state of Texas, Favor. But as healthcare is, right, they were late to innovate. So nobody had done anything from like a crowdsourced delivery perspective in healthcare. So in 2018, basically that's what we did. We've been able to crowdsource delivery of healthcare products like prescriptions, high-end vitamins, supplements, PPE, CBD oil, immunonutrition drinks for Abbott. And we're really excited. Last week, we actually started delivering the COVID-19 vaccines to people's homes. So they didn't have to wait in vaccine centers or drive-thrus. So that's what we're innovating today. And that's a little bit about my background.
So much to unpack there. Let's do this. So first off, I want to just say I love your analogy of entrepreneurship in a lot of ways as being a caged bird and kind of observing the Me Too approach that happens really often, unfortunately, in healthcare brands. We got a lot of fight for building out differentiated strategies. Even just this week I had a conversation with a client and they're like, our biggest competitor is doing this, so can you help us do it? And I'm like, no. We want to do what they're not doing. Otherwise there's going to be a Me Too. So tell us a little bit more about the transition, because I wondered, had you pivoted your company into the COVID offer, or was it that you launched the company around this business model idea, and just kind of that whole transition that happened? If you started the company 3 years ago, what were you delivering, and how successful that was that versus the demand of a vaccine today, and what that looks like?
Yeah, so the demand was always there, but unfortunately, most people don't know about community pharmacies, right? Mm-hmm. People are just so overwhelmed with CVS and Walgreens and the grocery stores, but 95% of all Americans live within 5 miles of a community pharmacy. Mm-hmm. And community pharmacies have a couple benefits that most people still don't know about. So number one is that they've always delivered to people's homes for free. So you never had to leave to get your prescriptions. Now it's becoming a thing, but community pharmacy's been doing it for years. The other thing, as 2 more I want to actually mention, is that community pharmacies are the ones who create, customized medicine. So if you need something unique or flavor in your prescription for your kiddos, that's typically done at a community pharmacy. They don't do customized medicine at CVS and Walgreens. They just put
Sure.
pills in bottles. Right? So when you need something customized, it's already included in your insurance plan for you to go
Yep.
to a community pharmacy and get that service. But most people don't take advantage of it. And then number three is the customer service experience. So once I left healthcare, I actually became a patient of a concierge physician. And it was a totally different experience for me. Instead of being, I would say, a cow in a herd for like every 15 minutes you're in and you're out of there. I met with my concierge physician. I was there for an hour. We went through so much. It was just a much better experience, right?
And they looked at you eye to eye instead of looking at the computer.
Yeah. You're right. You nailed it. They just look at their computer and doing all that at these regular physician offices.
Yeah.
So I just heard like, man, I wonder if I can have the same experience if I go to the community pharmacy. And it happened. So I went to the community pharmacy right around the corner from my home. They're talking, they're chatting me up, asking me about my family. I'm like, this is a much better experience.
Yeah.
So today, when you look at customer experiences for brick and mortar pharmacies, the community pharmacies always rank so much higher, right?
Yeah.
So when we came up with the idea with CourMed, we say, hey, what we can do is add a concierge delivery piece. So you have an end-to-end concierge experience for people. They can start with their concierge physician, go to what we call today a concierge community pharmacy, because we have taught them how to provide that last mile of delivery. So we started out there with prescriptions primarily. We also started delivering a number of, over-the-counter medications. We got wind of the high-end vitamins and supplements market, and then CBD hit. And CBD was a huge windfall, especially here in the state of Texas. So the thing that makes us unique is that, when you look at, people always ask me about our competitors. I say, well, we don't have any straight up competitors because we deliver all types of healthcare products. So the fact that, the COVID-19 vaccines came out, it was just an addition to what we've already been delivering. We've always delivered more than just prescriptions. So the demand was always there, but when COVID hit, of course, people were home and then they were like, oh, I want to get this delivered. So it became more popular.
Sure.
CVS and Walgreens and everybody said, oh, we'll deliver now. But we've been delivering for many, many years. And we're really excited about the demand that we're seeing for the COVID-19 vaccine to people's homes. I just got a note a couple of days ago from an area here in DFW where they had like 4,000 people who are ready to stay home and get their vaccine. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah.
And then other parts of the United States, Malibu, California is an area, Scottsdale, Arizona, and Miami, Florida are areas where we're really focusing. Yeah.
So are you competing? So are you B2B or B2C? And are you competing with the community pharmacist in that type of home delivery? Are you augmenting maybe some of those services?
Yeah, we are augmenting. So that's the beautiful thing about CourMed is that we have found different ways to bring new revenue to community pharmacies. At the beginning, when we started, we said, we got this cutting edge platform like Uber and Lyft, and it was sexy for a while. Then we realized that for those community pharmacies to really compete, they need new patients. So we actually have a platform where we can bring them new patients, but we actually partner with the community pharmacies to bring them in the new revenue because me being a former executive, I know quite a bit about marketing and have great relationships. So we can bring those additional relationships to a community pharmacy that receives the vaccine. We bring them the patient and we share in that revenue. So I'm glad you brought that up. So that's another thing that makes us unique. Instead of just being a straight up delivery company, we have a marketing aspect to it so that our partnered pharmacies can create additional revenue.
Which is really huge. So I've worked with community pharmacies for a long time. So I'm very familiar with the financial pain and anguish that they've been experienced with DIR fees and, just really not getting a whole lot of love in the industry as a whole, and making it more and more difficult for them to, kind of keep the lights on, if you will. And they do provide such an incredible service to their local communities that's, very hard to replicate with some of the big box pharmacies like CVS and Walgreens.
Yeah, so we see our role as continuing to be a partner for them. One of the things that we notice is that there's little or no marketing for community pharmacies. And, they're small, right? So they don't have the monies to get on television, to create these massive campaigns to create awareness.
Right.
So we've been fortunate enough to receive investments from 3 out of 4 companies that have $1 trillion market cap, which lets us know that we do have something that people are interested in.
Yeah.
And now we just have to make sure that more Americans are aware that they can take advantage of this service that allows them to stay home, stay safe, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, Derrick, we cannot just skip over that little comment that you made about investment from the $3 trillion market cap companies, right? So give us some insights on what's going on there.
Yeah, so we've been really blessed, right? So the fact that the platform has, the innovative enterprise software solution, but in addition to the enterprise software solution, we've done a few things to continue to make it unique, right? So one of the things that we make very unique is the way that we hire our drivers, right? So our feedback from our patients since day one has been 99.5 5-star reviews. So me being a former hospital executive, I knew that hospitals always struggled with patient satisfaction. So we built this platform would be the last thing that someone experiences within their healthcare visit is what they typically remember. So we wanted to make sure that that was a concierge level of service. So once that patient is discharged from the hospital, they leave the physician practice or whatever in their home, we want that experience to be, the word encouraging. We want it to be encouraging. So that word has gotten out. I'm going to knock on wood. In 3 years of operations, we have never had an accident at all. We're very mindful of when accidents occur. My brother actually works in the insurance industry, so he's been able to share some information with me. And with that information, we implemented into our platform. So, and the last thing I think that is very interesting is that instead of going out and using a service like Checker for background checks, who, they're doing background check on anyone, it's not very deep, right? So if you drive for Uber, Lyft, Grubhub, Checker is going to run 3 background checks regardless.
Yep.
So we thought that was overkill. We wanted something to do, go a little deeper dive. So we partnered up with a company called Safety Pin. And with Safety Pin, they go in much deeper, and to get approved for their platform, they even do behavioral. And the reason that we started looking at Safety Pin is because once we decided to do like the in-home, we wanted to make sure that the people were comfortable that who's coming to jab them had been thoroughly background checked, right? So those are some additional things that we've done, I think, that have made our platform unique and investable.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of those investors, because you've got a story there.
Yeah. So the first one that got wind of us was Microsoft. So here in DFW, Microsoft was looking for a potential partner for innovative deliveries of with drones. And we had already built out the drone platform. We didn't make a huge investment in the drones yet because, again, healthcare is slow to innovate. So we didn't want to go spend all that money.
You got time.
Huh?
You got time.
Yeah. So, but the enterprise software was there, right? So they decided to utilize us to partner. That was number one. And then Google identified the top 76 startups back in October of 2020, and CourMed was included in that. And then we're actually, it's pretty easy to figure out, I think, but we're waiting to sign some paperwork for the third company that has $1 trillion market cap for us to do a pilot, again, around helping people get their healthcare products to homes same day.
Nice. So how do you think, okay, so I can tell you one of the things that our listeners and viewers are going to want to know is how did that happen? How did you get on the radar of companies and investment companies like Microsoft and Google? Is it just a God thing? Is it luck? Or is it, when you look back in hindsight, you can go, okay, well, here's some, strategic decisions that our company made that help facilitate that.
Well, you can't get around the God thing. I have to give some honor and glory to God on that. But number two, what we did, so our first year of operations, we had a night. So let's go to this, right? So one thing we figured out really early was how to make money on each delivery, right?
Mhm.
Uber, Lyft, Grubhub, none of them have figured that out yet. We figured that out in the first 6 months, right?
Okay.
So our first year of operations, we had nice low margins, but nobody knew who we were. So as a board, we made a decision that we would spend our second year of margin on marketing.
Yep.
So we started spending money on marketing.
Yeah.
And the result of spending money on marketing, people started hearing about CourMed, all over the country. I mean, I got a text from a friend I haven't talked to in 10 years yesterday. He says, man, I've been reading about all this good press you've been getting. I'm like, how in the world did he find out? It was the marketing that we went ahead.
Because marketing works, Derrick. I mean, I don't understand why so many healthcare brands are so resistant to it. I mean, you can have $100 billion company and they're like, okay, well, we got a $20,000 marketing budget. And I'm like, why are you doing yourself this disservice?
Yeah, so that worked, and we're also as when these monies come in, we're looking to bring in at least at the beginning, a fractional chief marketing officer.
Yeah.
Only because healthcare is slower to innovate, and we know that's where the volume truly is. So if you go into a community pharmacy, a CVS or Walgreens, you may find one pharmacist, two at most.
Yeah.
Them there. But in hospitals, there's 30, 40, 50, 100 pharmacists in a hospital. So the volume is there. So you want to be able to get that business. So I am happy to communicate that we landed our first, I would say, large hospital. So we say hospitals are finally coming on board with our platform. And again, we take that information from that pharmacy who wants that 5-star delivery service for their patient that's going through telehealth or being discharged, and we take them to the closest community pharmacy to their home, which allows them to get free delivery, right? So that patient is happy because they're home from the hospital at 9, they got their prescription at their door at 12. The independent pharmacy or community pharmacy is happy because they got a brand new patient they didn't have before. And of course, CourMed is happy because we're making a delivery.
Sure. Yep.
So it's a win-win-win. That's what we've done to create quite a bit of headwind and relationships.
So from a marketing standpoint, obviously that is a very broad and deep discipline. There's a whole lot of channels and tactics and strategies that you can deploy, for any given company to build that awareness, right? It's not going to necessarily look the same from company to company. So in hindsight, are there some things that you invested in that maybe, you thought were going to work really well and didn't? And so our audience can learn from that, or some things that you think really helped elevate the awareness of your company and your offer.
Yes, I'll tell you what I learned many years ago from a story, even when we were back in like middle school, is Paul Revere. I was just sitting around thinking about Paul Revere, and I realized that Paul Revere wasn't the only person who went out and was yelling, "The British are coming, the British are coming." There were other people doing the same thing. Paul Revere had a strategy, though. Paul Revere went out and told all the people of influence that the British are coming, the British are coming. And guess what happened? Those people of influence told other people of influence that the British are coming, and that's what kept happening. So
wait, are you trying to say that Paul Revere was using influencer marketing?
He was using influencer marketing hundreds of years ago.
Oh, I love it. All right, tell us more.
And that's what we do when we launch in the market, right? So case in point, let me say here locally, Michael Johnson, a former Olympic 200, 400 sprinter, actually lives in McKinney, Texas, has a athletic facility here, but he also has a home in Malibu, right? So we used our relationship with him to get into the Malibu market, right? Yep. because of his influence. Then in the Miami market, we've utilized the Harvard business. We have a fractional chief financial officer who went to Harvard Business School. So he used his connections within the Harvard Business School network in South Florida that got us a lot of visibility in that area. Yeah. And lastly, we utilize like magazines, like a magazine that I really like called Modern Luxury, like for affluent families and the like. And we've been utilizing that platform for over a year now. So you're reaching out to very influential people, and influential people, what we understand with our platform is that, especially when it comes to delivery, your best customers are the ones who have time constraints. It's not about, they like the fact that it's free, but they're like, hey, I'm really busy. I don't have time to go to the CVS or Walgreens. I need this service so I can keep working and I can keep making some money, whatever, right? Yeah. So that is our customer. And so that's why we use platforms like Modern Luxury to promote what we're doing and get the word out to other people who have become our customers over the years. So what we like about Modern Luxury is that they have markets across America that we want to be in, California, Los Angeles, Scottsdale, Arizona, Miami, Dallas, any area with a number of affluent individuals, they're there. And we've been able to use that platform consistently for over a year now.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your business model. I mean, is that something that has evolved over time? Is that something that you, maybe struggled with in the beginning when you talk about other people maybe couldn't figure out that, that model that was going to be really feasible and viable. So let's just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so the first business model, what we figured out is, and this is, we also have some help. So in addition to the investments from the big companies with $1 trillion market caps, we also participated in some of the nation's best startup accelerators. And one of the startup accelerators here in the state of Texas is called Capital Factory. They put us in their VIP accelerator. Yep. And what we learned from there is that the margins for delivery were quite small, right? Like, typically we as CourMed, because we do the work as far as we have the software, we find the patient who needs the delivery, we keep 30% of every delivery, the driver keeps 70%. 30%, which they consider a take rate, is really small when it comes to margin. So we saw that there was an opportunity for us to get more margins and being in different areas. I'm thinking that's one of the reasons why Uber and Lyft has continued to struggle, is that they base their platform solely off the delivery aspect of the business. And there's other aspects of the business that are much more profitable. And I don't want to tell anyone, because one thing I've learned about those big companies is that they will see an opportunity, they're going to go for it, and they have a lot more money than we do. Right.
Yep. You don't have to disclose anything confidential. We don't need to know your secret sauce. Right. I get it.
So, what we've learned, that there was several other opportunities for us to provide value to community pharmacies where the margins were much bigger. And we've been able to take advantage of them. And what we've learned is that been able to create, really ironclad partnerships, because we are partners. When you look at the income statement of typical delivery, it sits at the bottom as an expense. But now when they look at the partnership with CourMed now, CourMed is actually bringing them new revenue. So CourMed is at the top as an income generator, and we sit at the bottom as an expense, but you're going to have a much better relationship with someone who bringing you revenue than there's always just a continual expense, right? So those are the things that we've been learning over the last couple of years that has helped us to survive, because the big companies, and we talk to them, about potential partnerships. And typically what happens is they're really looking for a way to do it themselves. They'll say, hey, we're looking to partner, but really they're looking for a way to get access to your ideas and do it themselves. We've learned our lesson. So we don't do that anymore.
Right. Hey, it's Dr. Roxy here with a quick break from the conversation. Are you trying to figure out what moves you need to make to survive and thrive in the new COVID economy? I want every health innovator to find their most viable and profitable pivot strategy, which is why I created the COVID Proof Your Business Pivot Kit. The Pivot Kit is a step-by-step framework that helps you find your best pivot strategy. It walks you through 6 categories you need to examine for a 360-degree view of your business. I call them the 6 critical pivot lenses. As you make your way through this comprehensive kit, you'll be armed with the tools, tips, and strategies you need to make sure you can pivot with speed without missing out on critical details and opportunities. Learn more at legacy-dna.com/kit. So, when you and I, before we started recording, you and I were just having a little, chat. And I asked you what we normally ask someone when we first encounter them. And it's how you're doing. And you said, I'm encouraged.
Yes.
And we don't hear that response very often. So tell us the lowdown about this, about being encouraged.
Well, I don't think you're ready for this because this is a story. I just told you the Cliff Notes version, but I experienced a great deal of success as a healthcare executive really early in my career, like 31, being a CEO. That was a lot of responsibility for someone that young.
Yeah.
But when I became an entrepreneur, I started to experience something I hadn't experienced before, and that was failure. I started failing like all get out, and I didn't know how to respond to it. So I remember one day I had just had enough. And I was like, I'm going to end my life because I don't have any reason for living anymore because I'm a failure.
Oh,
and that,
wow.
that I was going to end my life, I got 3 phone calls from friends out of the blue. And they were like, hey, Derrick, I don't know what's going on. I just felt the need to call you today to give you a word of encouragement. And at the end of those 3 phone calls, I was encouraged. And there was no need for me to end my life anymore. And I realized the power of a word of encouragement. So that day I decided that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start a company one day, and then we're going to encourage people. And that's what we do within CourMed. As I mentioned to you before, when people look at CourMed, they think at the beginning that COUR stands for courier. It does not. In the middle of the word of encouragement is COUR. So we're encouraging people with medicine.
Yep.
So every time that we send an SMS message to someone that's going to receive their COVID-19 vaccine or a prescription, at the bottom of that text message, it says, be encouraged. Every time we pay our drivers every Tuesday, but by Zelle, it tells you their amount they got paid. At the bottom, it says, be encouraged. Every barcoded delivery label that goes out thousands a day has people's names on it, their address. At the bottom, it says, be encouraged. So I understand the power of a word of encouragement. As I mentioned before, struggle in a number of areas of their life, and they all could use a word of encouragement. We just don't communicate that we need to be encouraged. So we see it as our role to share a word of encouragement on a daily basis. And as we grow our company, I'm very adamant, as we're, getting ready to bring in these resources, and bringing in the resources mean we're going to grow our team. So one of the things that I'm working on right now is building a culture that is so strong and so encouraged, focused, that if someone gets in and they're not about encouraging others, they just self-select out because it's just going to be overwhelming.
Right.
On a
Yeah.
daily basis, it's your responsibility to encourage someone. And I just sent a guy a note. I bought his book. And I said, I'm going to buy your book because I want to encourage you. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, for entrepreneurs, as you know, and as you kind of indicated here, it can be a very lonely, a very difficult journey. We like to come on shows like this and talk about all the highlights, right? The edited version of how we built and commercialized our innovations. Well, we made this decision and it was great, and this decision, it was great, and here we are, and we're successful. And and we just kind of omit a lot of the failure and a lot of the struggle. And so thank you for being so candid about that moment that you encountered. And I want to just kind of pause for a minute and give you an opportunity to share a word of encouragement to our viewers and listeners, because these are your peers that are listening and watching the show. And, there's things like the valley of death, the trough of sorrow. These are real phenomenons that innovators tend to go through at some point in their journey. So share some encouragement. What do you say
Yeah.
to those folks?
Yeah. So what I didn't know at the time, right, is that failure is part of the success journey. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And in this country, we do not celebrate failure. I was going to write a book one time, and I still may do it. And it's going to be about people, I would say, the greatest failures of all time. And they're going to be some of the most successful people you've ever heard of, but it will go into those areas in their life where they just failed, like, oh, get out, you know?
Right.
They
Right.
still made it. So failure is a part of the success journey. There is nothing wrong with failure. You learn in failure. I just did an article the other day when I mentioned that CourMed, we decided to bring on a consulting firm who most people would have said that was a failure. They had a startup. They got their revenue was attacked by one of the big companies, which they typically do, right? And they didn't have multiple revenue verticals. So that company basically went away, right?
Yep.
We learned from their failure. So once we got our name out there, the big guys tried to come after our revenue stream, but we had multiple streams. So it gave us an opportunity to create a competitive response. We learned from their failure. So we're going to continue to bring on people on our team. They just have to make sure that they're encouraged, though, that you can get a lot further learning from someone's failures than experiencing the failures yourself. So failure is not bad. You're going to go through it, accept it, embrace it. Success is around the corner.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that. And it's so true. There's an ebook that I created during COVID to encourage entrepreneurs, and it was a story of 11 successful pivots. And so it was a number of companies, common brands that we're really familiar with, that we just know the success story. And what we don't know is that a lot of those were, a shoestring away from their complete demise, and in their right, and in their act of desperation to keep the lights on, to make payroll, to, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Whatever it was that they came up with, whether it was they changed their target customer, they changed their business model, they changed the vertical, whatever it was, that actually ended up being that desperate strategy ended up being actually the recipe for success. And it's just, we don't really talk about those stories enough. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How can I get that?
I will send it to you after. It's on our website under resources, but I will be sure to send it to you as a follow-up here. So let's just talk about culture for a minute, because this is something that I think is really important. I'm a firm believer that culture starts from the top, and it starts day one. A lot of times you have innovators who are really, really consumed with the technology and building that out, right? Kind of thinking more like product or technology first, or even customer first, which is, a good strategy, a good approach, and thinking about culture like down the road, when I have time, when I get a little bit bigger, when I have the resources. So just talk a little bit about when you started thinking about culture and how you think that really has shaped some of your commercial success.
Yeah, just as you mentioned, it was day one. I realized that encouragement is a need. And if we're going to encourage that end user, that means we have to have people on our team that are encouraged, right?
Yeah.
So we're very, I don't want to say myopic, but we're very mindful of individuals who are brought on our team. And every Wednesday I have a stand-up for our team. And I make sure I continue to communicate that message every Wednesday. It is not something that we just talk about one day. It's every Wednesday. We're in the service business. The people who are receiving services from us are sick, right? They're getting a prescription. So
Right.
The last thing that you can take before you're actually admitted to the hospital. People are not taking that into consideration. These people are sick. So they need to be encouraged. So if we're talking to our customer, who could be a community pharmacy, could be a hospital, in the back of your mind, we need to create an encouraging experience. If we're talking to a patient and their prescription may be late, because we have 99.5 five-star ratings, you have to consider they're sick. They're not calling you to bug you. They have a condition that they need relief from.
Yeah.
So it's that mindset of that we put into the people's everyday thinking and way of working that has been working for us. But now, as we're about to take on, capital, so our team is about to grow, I'm doing it even more often. So the next thing that we've engaged with, even though we have 99.5% five-star delivery, we're partnering with the Ritz-Carlton Leadership Center so that we can take our service even to the next level, right? So I did a photo shoot in Sunny Isles Beach right outside of Miami about 2 weeks ago. And I was just amazed on the service at the Ritz-Carlton. I'm like, well, this is what we can do with CourMed. Let's make this partnership so we can just keep growing with our experience. So again, it's every day with the individuals, even the emails. I just noticed on my team, they say, have an encouraging day, be encouraged is just become part of our culture and who we are.
So, what I hear you saying is that, your past experience around needing that encouragement has really been a key driver of how you view your company and how you're intentionally instilling encouragement as part of your culture, and how you're intentionally transferring that from employee to employee, right? Not just from the top, right? Permeating that support. And then also going back to your experience with concierge medicine and recognizing, the experience part of it and how important that is. So, I mean, those are great strategies and tactics for our audience to listen and can take into consideration on whether that makes sense for their companies as well. And if it's, it may be different, right? There may be a different cultural value, but just the importance of how you permeate that, build it and maintain it throughout the different growth phases of the company.
Right. Yeah. One thing I've always remembered is people remember individuals who make them feel, and I would say encouraged.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we can, tend to do on a daily basis. We want people to feel encouraged after they experience CourMed.
Yeah. So, Derrick, how do you stay encouraged? Are there any books that you've read that have been really instrumental? And maybe it's wisdom, maybe it's inspiration, any podcast, is there people, how do you stay encouraged?
Yeah, I've been tremendously blessed. When I left corporate America, I met two guys who were entrepreneurs and they just took me under their wing. I mean, I knew them, but it was something that they said, hey, Derrick, we're going to take you under our wing. They're very successful, millionaires in their 30s. And they said I was their type of guy. So over the last 10 years, before this call, I was talking to one of them. And we have an opportunity to talk for 30 minutes and share what's going on in our lives. And that encourages me. I spent time with one of them at his office yesterday, and then this morning with another one.
Yeah.
It's an interesting story. We all lived in North Carolina, and then I had got recruited to Dallas because there was a not-for-profit wanting to build hospitals. Again, going back to my former life, they wanted to build hospitals in Africa. And I was like, man, that's a great opportunity. I've never been to Africa. I think that'd be a great experience for me. But the headquarters was here in Dallas, so I had to move to Dallas. And once entrepreneurs heard I was moving to Dallas, do you know what they did?
What?
They moved their families to Dallas.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, that's crazy. You don't hear that every day. I mean, that's a lot of love. That's a lot of love.
Yeah. So we're all here. So we didn't have to, struggle to find out where we fit in the culture. We had the three that was not easily broken.
Yep.
There's a book that I read that has encouraged me over the years. It's called 177 Mental, goodness gracious, 177 Mental Toughness Secrets of the World Class. 177 Mental Toughness Secrets of the World Class. I share that with everyone on the CourMed team must read that book.
Okay.
Because, especially in entrepreneurship, we work with a great deal of interns. And it's a shift. So I went to one of the best programs in health administration, but it's primarily around acute care, working in hospitals. But we're in startups, entrepreneurship. It takes a different mindset. So that book
Yeah.
prepares your mind for something outside of acute care.
Mm.
So you really focus them on that particular book. I read it several times a year. It
Okay.
hits you between, I mean, it is like the best book for thinking.
I've
The
never heard of it,
funny.
and I'm definitely going to grab a copy of it. I'm an avid
Okay.
reader, and yeah, the mindset is really where it begins.
Yeah.
Without the right mindset, you can't build a successful company.
Yep. So
Mhm.
we use that book. So everyone on our team, and I don't consider myself to have followers. No, within CourMed, we build leaders. So
Yeah, right.
our goal is, yeah, you can work for us for a while, but my goal is to build you up so one day that you can go out and do it for yourself. So
Well, and I'm sure that, because of your success so early on, right? Being the CEO of a company at 31 years old, it seems like you also have personal experience with someone that had faith and
yeah,
confidence in your capabilities as a young leader. And so then being able to instill that in other people, and also recognizing that leadership is really not even about position, right? I
yep.
mean, you could be a
Mhm.
frontline employee and you're a leader. Everyone is a leader. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So what's the one thing that I always, I share with my wife quite a bit. I'm like, people follow individuals not because of titles. They
Right.
follow them because they see something in them that they want. So I understand within me, I said there's a river flowing in me. There's constant activity, there's action, there's enthusiasm, there's motivation, and people want that for themselves. If I wasn't a leader, there will be people who want to be around that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't have anything to do with your position. It has to do with who you are, what you're doing, what you exude to others that people want to follow. But again, with me, I have no followers. I was talking to a lady I did a video, I think on Tuesday. She says, Derrick, you don't have any followers on LinkedIn. I said, I don't want any followers on LinkedIn. We build leaders. I don't
Right. Right.
follow
Right.
me. We build leaders at CourMed. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's interesting. Um, okay, Derrick, thank you so much for sharing so much of your story and anecdotal stories and just candor with our audience. How do folks get a hold of you if they want to touch base and learn more about your company, or how to not become one of your followers, but be part of your network so they can be encouraged?
Yeah, so I think the easiest way is LinkedIn. We do have a LinkedIn page for CourMed. I'm out there. Um, I can share a link with you, and maybe you can share that with the audience. And
Yeah.
what else do I have? I have a haystack. So I don't have any business cards. So again, we're an innovative company, and we use Haystack. Just press a button. I can share my content with a text message or an email.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so for people that don't know what Haystack is, tell them.
Yeah, so Haystack is an app that is an electronic business card. So when we looked at, buying a bunch of business cards, let's be honest, people throw business cards away, or they don't keep them with them, right? So we
I got
decided.
a couple of stacks of business cards in my office, so I tend to keep them, but
Uh-huh.
they're about 8, 10 years old, and I haven't looked at them, and I can't tell you when.
Absolutely. So we decided, why waste the money on, cutting down the trees? Let's do electronic business cards. People just
Yeah.
press a button. They have all of our information. Haystack is out of Australia. We've been using them for probably 3 years now. I think it's only like $7 a month. And yeah, I really like that much better.
Well, and I think two things. One, when you're a startup company, every dollar counts. So
Yes.
you're saving some money there. And, the other thing is that it's a small example, but it is a big example at the same time of being an innovative company, right?
Yes. Yes.
I know we need to wrap up here, but this is another one of my soapboxes, right? Where you've got this company that's talking about this innovative, thing that's changing the world. There's nothing else like it on the market. And then you look at their marketing, you look at all their communications, everything about them, and you're like, wait a minute, everything looks so stale, so tried, so true, so me too. But yet
Mhm.
you're trying to convince me and all your target customers that you're this innovative company, and not really realizing that all that matters.
Mhm. Yeah, I'll tell you one last thing. We have not one piece of paper in the entire firm. Everything's electronic.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
If
So for
anything goes down, we're good. I mean, we'll just go to another computer, pull it up.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's huge. You don't hear that very often. So,
Mhm.
all right. So when I think about it, like, what's the secret to your success? Go digital. I mean, obviously there's a lot of layers there,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
just be 100% digital. There's a lot to
Software.
be said about that. Yeah. I mean, it's scalability, right? I
Yep.
mean, think about it as like a nice to have, but then you really think about it longer and you're like, no, 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 this is a must have. Digital transformation, really being able to scale.
Mhm.
It starts with that type of mindset.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we've done.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Derrick. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today.
My pleasure, Dr. Roxy.
Thank you so much for listening. I know you're busy working to bring your life-changing innovation to market, and I value your time and attention. To get the latest episodes on your mobile device automatically, subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. Thank you for listening, and I appreciate everyone who shared the show with friends and colleagues. See you on the next episode of Health Innovators.